As chairman of the Pennichuck Special Water Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or electronic means. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda on the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099, meeting ID 854-4507-4348, and passcode 133574. The public may also view the meeting via channel 16. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided in the City of Nashville's website at www.nashvillenewhampshire.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and the National Public Library. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Would the clerk please call the roll? I believe that's you, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. Just making sure I have the right paperwork, and let's see. Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien is present. I can hear the proceedings and I am alone. Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire.
I'm here. I can hear you and I am alone.
Alderman Richard Dowd.
Sorry, I'm present. I can hear everyone, and I am alone.
We're going to skip over Alderman Skip Cleaver, not present as of yet. Alderman at Large Brendan Laws.
I am here. I can hear you, and I am alone.
Okay, we have 4 members present. Also in attendance is Larry Goodhue, CEO of Pennichuck. Is Don Ware also present?
Yep.
Okay, Don Ware, COO of Pennichuck. Thomas Leonard, Director of Pennichuck Corporation. And anybody else, Mr. Goodhue, you want to recognize from Pennichuck?
Yes, why don't I give an introduction to all members of the
Absolutely,
Pennichuck
thank you.
So myself, Larry Goodhue, I am the CEO and CFO of Pennichuck. Mr. Donald Ware is the Chief Operating Officer of Pennichuck. Mr. Jay Leonard, who is the Chairman of the Board of Pennichuck. Mr. George Torres, who is the Corporate Controller, Chief Accounting Officer, and Treasurer of Pennichuck. And Mr. John Bovair, who is the Chief Engineer of Pennichuck. Those are the members from our management team and board that are in attendance.
Okay.
Yes,
And I would also like to say to the chair, also in attendance is Alderman Patricia Clay and Alderman Linda Harriet Gathright, and also from the Corporate Counsel Office of the city, Cecilia Leonard.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm going to introduce a couple other people that are on. We have Sam.
Absolutely.
Sam Forget from Harriman. Stephen Boudreau from that's involved in the development of the intersection on Manchester Street. And I think that's it from that group. All right.
Thank you, Alderman. Before we get to communications, Alderman Dowd, would you like to discuss what we spoke about earlier on the phone?
Yes. Yesterday, we had a meeting and with, I'm slipping my mind, Steve. What's the name of your company?
Vanessa and Associates.
Vanessa and Associates, thank you. On the they're designing the intersection on Manchester Street with the new Pennichuck School. And I had sent out to the members of the Pennichuck, in order to make the intersection work the best, we would need to encroach on the Pennichuck land about 2 or 3 feet. And I think that, Steve, if you want to just cover it real quickly, what we need from the Pennichuck is just we don't need a vote tonight. We just need to see if the concept's okay with the Pennichuck on that, getting an easement on that small piece of land. And if that's true, I can see Celia smiling already. We will have an easement drawn up and get that into the design process. Steve?
Thank you, Alderman Dowd. I'll be happy to share a couple of drawings with you. If I may share the screen, Alderman?
It's okay with me. Who's IT?
Do I need?
And if I may, as clerk, since it's a different group here, when each one speaks, such as you, Mr. Boudreau, can you say your name again so that it could be, the minutes can be properly transcribed? Thank you.
Certainly, Alderman O'Brien. My name is Stephen Boudreau. I work with the firm of Vanessa and Associates. As Alderman Dowd pointed out, we are the design engineer under contract to the city to prepare the drawings associated with the Pennichuck Middle School site. It involves the intersection of Manchester Street at Ferry Road and the proposed Pennichuck Middle School site drive. I'll share my screen now and walk through. Right.
There we go.
Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're looking at, it's a very simplistic alignment graphic. This is Manchester Street heading from the south, where to the left it intersects with Route 3, and heading towards the north.
Henry Burke.
Yep. And Ferry Road intersection. This is approximately 700 or 800 feet from Route 3 to this intersection. This would be the new intersection with the Pennichuck Middle School site here. This is the Pennichuck Water parcel. This is the existing right-of-way line as I'm tracing here. And as we come up here, it actually goes underneath this red line here. Oh, let me undo what I just did. All right. And then it continues up. And the right-of-way is right along here. What I'm going to walk you through tonight is, as you are probably all familiar with, Pennichuck Middle School is under development in terms of design. We just recently got survey in, and we're in the middle of preparing the 25% design plans. Up until this point, we had prepared concept plans for the proposed alignment and the improvements on Manchester Street in order to accommodate the school access. What that includes is today, there's 2 lanes out on Middle Manchester Street today, 1 in each direction. What we're proposing to do is widen this section of Manchester Street here to accommodate a new left turn lane that'll be coming into the Pennichuck Middle School. In order to do that, we need to widen the roadway from its existing curb lines, which are here and here. And we have to do that inside of an existing pinch point on the right of way. And again, we just got our survey in over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've now determined that we have a pinch point here on this corner property, and we have a pinch point here, which is this line against the Pennichuck Water. in order to fit this new left turn lane and in order to make it long enough to meet the traffic requirements, which are at least 85 feet in length, in order to provide for the appropriate storage for left turning vehicles. In other words, somewhere around 3 to 4 vehicles queuing. We would need to actually push the alignment slightly towards the Pennichuck Water site. And what's outlined in red here is the proposed easement that we would be looking for. What this easement does is this part of this easement is just simply traced over the existing right-of-way line here. And then what I've done is I've offset that 2 feet from the proposed new edge of roadway. That dark black line would be the proposed edge of roadway. My assumption is, and I have not reviewed this obviously with the city engineer, but would typically the city would like at least a 2-foot offset from the proposed edge of roadway to the proposed new edge of easement. So this easement ends up being somewhere in the range of approximately 5 feet in width at its fattest point, down to 0 here where it ties back into the existing right of way. And then down here, it's offset 2 feet off the edge of road. All in all, it is approximately 500 square feet, approximately 150 feet in length. And again, as I said, at the fattest point, it's roughly about 5 feet wide. What might be of interest to Pennichuck Water is your existing fence line is here based on the survey I received. And then it comes right against the right of way. So there would need to be some fencing that would need to be relocated, probably from this point here to here. And your existing water line, which I know is probably a sensitive issue, is here along this point here. Based on what I've laid out here, the roadway and the widening would come within approximately, depending on how, about 7.5 feet to the water line. So that when we move this new edge of roadway over, we're going to be within 7.5 feet plus or minus of that water line. I thought that might be an important note for you guys to know. Other than that in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're looking for in order to accommodate the roadway.
And the moving of the fence would be taken care of totally by the project cost, no cost to the Pennichuck. If the Pennichuck is amenable to this, we would have the proposed easement drawn up, working with you guys and our city attorney. We'd like to do that if it's amenable to Pennichuck. We'd like to do that as quickly as possible so they can go from the 25% design to the 50% design. I guess it's Larry. You have any questions or concerns?
So this is Larry Goodhue speaking, and I'm going to actually have Donald Ware speak to the specifics relative to the right of way, the setback from the water main. You know, on the high side, I guess I might say, you know, the cost of adjusting this, as you mentioned, Alderman Dowd, would be upon the city for, you know, moving and relocating the fence. We would probably also have a couple of hours of attorney fees to review the easement document, which would be a cost that would be borne, like it would be with any customer that we have in any territory that we have. We use a local attorney. His rates are very minimal. And again, just enough time for him just to do a review of the easement document that is drawn up so that we have done the proper things, you know, fiduciarily. So I guess I would just ask Mr. Ware if you would just unmute and then just share your review of this afternoon relative to what is being requested.
Sure. So this plan has changed a little since the one that was sent to us this afternoon, where the original easement was approximately 3 feet wide and longer, but, you know, 3 or 5 feet. The real key here is not the road from the water main, because we have water mains under roads all the time. We repair them under roads all the time, but the location of the fence relative to the water main and allowing enough room to complete work on the water main. And again, without a scale there, it looks like as long as we can locate the fence right on the backside or along the backside of that easement, which again is only 2 feet off of the edge of pavement, then that pinch point right where you've got the hand right now gets us about, it appears to be maybe 7 foot of clearance from the center of the water main to the fence. Yeah. All right, so it's not even quite that. So again, what's going to happen if we have to do a repair there? That fence is going to have to come down. Again, that's a brand new water main, so I could say, not a concern for us, but we certainly couldn't have the fence any closer than that. If we had a water main in that area, break in that area, again, likely the fence would be undermined. Maybe the part of the road that again happens in the past. So normally we require 10 feet from the center line of a main that size to the edge of the fence to, ensure we can excavate, on enough on the side of the main to do the repair and get shoring in. That doesn't exist here, but it would be our fence. So again, less of a concern of the issue of fence damage. So, I think we can work with it. Certainly wouldn't want to see it any closer. And again, that would, we'd want to be able to make sure we can get the fence right on the backside of that easement. That it wouldn't be an issue with somebody wanting more than 2 foot setback from the edge of the road in that case.
Yeah, I think that in the easement, we would be responsible if for some reason you had to take that fence down and work on the pipe, and hopefully that doesn't happen in any of our lifetimes since you just put it in.
If it does, we're in trouble.
Yeah, probably more trouble than the cost of moving the fence. So we would be responsible for moving the fence and all the costs. And I guess at this point, Attorney Leonard, would you see any issues?
Just some clarifying things. I mean, if moving the fence in the first instance, I guess would be it. But after that, I mean, are we looking at what's being proposed? That if it needs to be moved for excavation in the unlikely event that the city would have to do that? I'm assuming not, but.
Well, it depends on how the Pennichuck and their lawyers want to write it. I think
But
it's a
I'm writing
small risk. Yeah, I know you're going to write it, but I mean.
So I know how I'll write it. I'm just trying to figure out what you're promising and if I need to.
Yeah. So, whoever in the office is going to write it will work with the Pennichuck, and then we will bring I guess we have to bring the legislation to the Board of Aldermen for approval.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think as you mentioned, Alderman Dowd, one of the things here is, we're not looking for any compensation for this. We usually work, we've done this in other communities, but we have, protected as the PUC would expect us to, just what you mentioned. So if the fence for some reason had to be, taken down so work could be performed to repair that water main in the future, that the cost of removing the fence and putting it back up would be borne by the city. If there was, so that the ratepayer at the end of the day isn't paying for that. And the commission would look for something like that in this case where there was no compensation for the easement. And we're putting a future risk, but like I said, it is way down the road. So, hopefully that's something we can work out and make work.
Definitely. It sounds like we do need a city engineer review of this as well.
Oh yeah, Vanessa's working with Dan Hudson on the traffic engineer.
Yeah, Wayne Husband.
Wayne Hudson. And so they will put together the mets and bounds of the easement, and then we'll draw it up and get everybody's holy water blessing on it and take it to the Board of Aldermen for final approval. So tonight, we just wanted to get, a nod of the head that there wasn't any big issue with the Pennachuck, that we can work this out.
Alderman Dow, this is Mr. Goodhue again, and I guess the main point I think that needs to come forward on that is when the city engineer does review it. One of the things that Don Ware mentioned is we don't want that line to get any closer to the water main. So that would be the most important point. I think, based on what we're looking at here, based on what we're all agreeing to tacitly as far as, the movement of the fence, the future cost of that, if and when that should occur, we hope it never does. But that would be probably the biggest concern we would have, is that doesn't further encroach on the water main itself.
Yep, since we're the major and only shareholder, I think we can work this out.
Yep. And not for nothing, Mr. Bover has told me that there is an easement that we're actually seeking from the city on the Pennichuck school property, for which, again, we would pay all the costs of granting that easement. And Mr. Bover, if you wanted to weigh in on that, because I think it's germane to the overall project at this juncture.
Sure thing, Larry. This is John Boisvert from Pennichuck. Mr. Dowden and I had a conversation regarding, I think it's the new middle school that's being built and the water main that's going to be servicing that. That would be something where we would, be needing an easement there. We would hand you guys all the paperwork and everything for your approval. I think what I think I still owe you is kind of a draft. I think you were requesting of that.
Right.
But we can get that over to you.
We got a little while before we start that.
Yeah, but I think, for once, it'd be nice to be ahead of things.
And
I guess the reason I bring that point up is we deal with easements on a regular basis within the utility, and we treat all third parties and customers on a consistent basis in compliance with PUC regulations, and so that's the point there.
So the other part is the fence that runs down by the parking lot in Pennichuck. We're going to be getting an easement from Hayden Greens to put the fence on their property, and we're going to be replacing that fence, and we'll be responsible for the land and the fence. That's another easement we'll write, but we don't need that right now. Soon, but not right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Oh, sorry, that's Brandon.
Yeah. Hey, go for it.
thank you.
yes,
Mr.
Alderman.
Chairman, I would like to ask a question this time to Attorney Leonard. Are we duly, as far as the easement goes, are we authorized to do this? And the reason I ask is because the school board is its own duly elected board, and they maintain the property. So in their maintaining of their property, is it the Board of Aldermen or is it the school board that may need to be asked as far as this easement goes?
As far as the approvals, Mike, this is under the auspices of the Joint Special School Building Committee right now, and we have that authority that was passed to us from the school board. As far as maintenance concerned, this is going to be part of the Manchester Street, which is part of DPW. That's why I'm working with Dan Hudson. It's the property is not going to be owned by the school. So they don't have anything to do with it.
Okay, Attorney Leonard, do you want to chime in?
No, I think, that where this is going to be, that's actually was one of my questions, if this easement was going to be, and it will be incorporated into the right of way. We don't, plus the Board of Aldermen usually, the Board of Aldermen have to approve purchases of land for the school anyway. So by any way necessary, I think we're covered going to the board and then the joint special.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Clee, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman. My question is actually going to sound silly, but could you explain what a pinch point is? I think I know what it is, but if it could be explained what a pinch point is, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, I will. So the pinch point is what I'm referring to is inside the right-of-way boundaries of the roadway. So this is the right-of-way boundary here on the I think it's on the west side as we're
Yes.
heading north. And this is the right-of-way boundary on the east side of the roadway here. So this proposed roadway widening has to fit, if we don't violate the existing right-of-way available for the roadway, okay, which is that dash line there, has to fit between these two lines. This one here and this one here. And what I meant by the pinch point is I have a pinch point here. What's not shown here is this is actually the edge of road. What we have to fit beyond here is an existing sidewalk. That's 5.5 feet wide. So we have to align this roadway so that when we put this new sidewalk in, the back of the sidewalk will sit right at that pinch point. It can't cross that into this private property. And we would need to hold that here on the Pennichuck side too, is if Pennichuck Water said, no, we're not willing to give you this easement, we would then need to squeeze this roadway down to fit within this pinch point here and this point here.
Yeah, the alternative design we looked at was much more problematic on that pinch point on Ferry Road.
Right.
And
Correct.
this getting this easement on the Pennichuck piece makes the road much better design.
Yes, it's more consistent in terms of its width and how we can accommodate it. One might look at this and say, well, Steve, you've got a lot of room right here. Look at all this right of way. Well, that right of way is useful if I had a tangent that I could just parallel. What happens is in order to widen this roadway for this left turn lane, I have to meet the existing roadway here and then tie into the existing roadway down here. This is called a reverse curve. And in order to make this alignment work, it actually has to shift towards the Pennichuck Water site. I can't push it any farther in this direction. And I can't tighten the alignment because this alignment has to meet guidelines for certain design speeds, which this roadway is currently at with this design.
Just a couple of other things for people that might not realize it. This is going to be a lighted intersection. And we're working with DPW and the state as far as the light, the way the light operates and the interface with the light on Henry Burke. So all of that's being handled in accordance with all the people that have to get their fingers involved in the design.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chair.
As long as it's not a joint special question.
No, I'm asking Brendan if I may. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is to follow up on that is that when you mentioned about the sidewalks, we're not going to lose any width of the sidewalk, right? They'll continue to remain the same width because we do have the school kids that go on, and it's very important that they get plowed. And I know they use the sidewalk plow, so I want to make sure we're not losing any sidewalk at all, either on Ferry Road or on Manchester. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
DPW wouldn't allow us to do that. And also there's new crosswalks that will be controlled by the lights.
Yes.
Much safer getting across that street.
My favorite part. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, that landowner loves us putting this in, so. But anyway, I don't want to be taking the corner of her lot either.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman?
You can assume this will, yes, Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, I'm looking here and what's presented to us is the name. So is this already like part of our existing Old Harris Road? And then is that going to be the new name or continue? Because being on the fire department, my experience between Saturn and Satin, Coburn Ave and Coburn Street, Russell Ave and Russell Street, and the list goes on and on. We already have a Harris Road, so.
Are we jumping ahead to a new topic, Mike?
Huh?
Are we jumping ahead to a new topic?
Well, it's got to go through, for what I see, R21-109. I didn't name it, but it basically says authorized issuing of building permits on Old Harris Road. Is that what we're talking about?
Why don't we finish?
I believe.
Huh?
I believe that there's a little bit of confusion. Alderman Dow just wanted to present this to us before we got started on those proposals.
Okay, I thought the two were together. Thank you. Thank
Not
you.
related to Harris Road and.
Okay.
And I think we got everybody nodding in agreement. So if we do, I can let Steve and Sam go, because unless Sam wants to stick around and listen about Old Harris Road, but
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
oh.
and we also going to have concerns about the tie-in and the fence. Steve, I don't know if you want to stick around or.
I can stick around as you need me, Alderman, whatever you'd like. I'll stick around for a little bit.
All right.
I did want to echo what you had said with regard to where we are. This was an important meeting. I want to thank all the aldermen and the chairman, because this does now give us the ability to coordinate with the city. Obviously, it's what Dan's looking for, and where this alignment of this easement goes. We won't move it any further. I understand completely from Pennichuck Water. Thank you for that. We'll hold that dimension, and if possible, we will increase it in size.
And Alderman Dow, this is Larry Goodhue once again.
Sure.
My understanding is that you'll first go to the city engineer to make sure that everything is clear there before Attorney Leonard finalizes the easement agreement, so that you know that you've got that in place before that. And as soon as she has that draft prepared, send it off to us. We will make sure that our attorney turns it around very quickly for you once we have that in hand.
Yeah, what we'll do is they will submit their 25% design, and DPW, and this will include this, and DPW would bless it, city engineer rather, and Wayne Hudson, and once that's done, we'll write the easement and they can go on to their 50% design. And we will work hand in hand with the Pennichuck on all of this.
Anything else, Alderman Dowd?
I think that's it for me for now.
Well, thank you all very much. Alderman
Thank you.
O'Brien, if we can move ahead with the agenda now. So communications.
There are none.
So there were some late additions, and if you don't mind me just taking the reins, because you may not have gotten the updated agenda. But we have a communication from Matt Sullivan, Planning Department Manager. R21-109 Class 5-1 Road Building Permit Request for Pennichuck Solar Array, Old Harris Road, tax maps 52. And then I'm not going to read all those numbers. And then communication from Matt Sullivan, Planning Department Manager, for referral from Board of Aldermen to propose R29-109, authorizing issuing of building permits on Old Harris Road, Class 6 highway. And there being no objection, I will accept the communications and place them on file. Unfinished business.
There is none.
New business resolutions.
Before us this evening is R-21-109, authorizing issue of building permits on Old Harris Road, a Class 6 highway. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
The motion is for final passage of R29-109 by roll call. Mr. Goodhue, would you like to fill us in on what's going on here?
Actually, Mr. Alderman Laws, I'm going to defer to Mr. Ware to actually carry this discourse. Donald Ware, in his role, has been the primary representative of the company pursuing this project and can speak to it much more clearly than I can. So I will turn it over to Mr. Ware, our Chief Operating Officer, please.
Certainly, thank you.
Good evening again. So the issue at hand here is we have been through the planning board process for the site plan for the proposed 1.6 megawatt solar field, which is adjacent or will be adjacent to Old Harris Road. And a question came up during the site plan process as to the status of Old Harris Road. Our attorney worked with the city attorney and looked at that, and it was determined that Old Harris Road was a Class 6 road. That being said, for the building department to issue a building permit off of a Class 6 road, they need approval from the Board of Aldermen. And as such, we are in the process of seeking that approval so that the company that will be building the solar field starting in a late March, early April timeframe will be able to pull that building permit because they have the permission to pull one on a Class 6 road as required to be granted by the Board of Aldermen.
So I'm assuming this it continues in perpetuity as a Class 6. It relisted as a Class 6 highway, correct? Or no? So forgive me, I just confused myself. But are there any other questions from any of my my fellow colleagues? Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Sorry, I was snowballing a lot.
We received another email from someone that's on the Conservation Commission. And the one thing that concerned me was the Old Harris Road is gated and traffic is not allowed on it because the Pennichuck fence separating the conservation or your Pennichuck protected land is on the left side of the fence. The fence is on the right side of Old Harris Road. So there's a gate. There's some question relative to is this a public road? And if it's a public road, can it be gated? And I think in a minute I'm going to ask the legal department for a determination, but is there anything that we need to do to this road? Either, well, one thing Alderman O'Brien brought up about renaming it, although I don't know is there going to be any fires along it. And two, should we just discontinue it now? There is also two other streets that are come off of Old Harris Road that are in part of the, if not the middle of the solar farm, which have properties on it that the Pennichuck nor the city owns. So
Alderman Dowd, a couple things. There are actually two fences there. The gate is not ours. We have our fence is on the left-hand side of Old Harris Road as you proceed easterly. There's a fence on the right-hand side of the road as well. And the gate has always been used and the lock on it belongs to the football group. I think they're a peewee group that practices down on the furthest ball field down near the bog. And so they drive down that road to use that ball field for practice. So, we ourselves have no problem with the gate being removed because like I said, we have a fence that's on the left-hand side all the way down. And that fence, when it's actually going to be rebuilt as part of this project where there will be access at two locations. Well, actually, let me stand corrected. Our fence is going to wrap around the two lots that we do not own and back to what would be the northern side of Old Harris Road. So those two lots, which we have met with both property owners and they're aware of this, they will still have access to their lots. The roads going back, and one of those lots is adjacent to Old Harris Road. One is off of Old Harris Road. There was a determination during the site plan process. All the streets other than Old Harris Road were not streets of record, were not paper streets, did not have to be abandoned. So, long story short is we have no objections to that gate coming down. We did not install it initially. Not sure who installed the fence on the right-hand side of the property of Old Harris Road, but there's actually, if you drive down there, a fence on both the left and right-hand side. The left-hand side of the fence is ours, the northern fence. The right-hand or southern fence, I honestly do not know who owns that fence.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I'm going to sort of unpack Alderman Dowd's questions, I think in order. One, Class 6 roads can in fact be subject to gates and bars as long as they can be unlocked by the traveling public. So that's in the statute. You know, I don't think it would be my recommendation that you wouldn't have to make it a condition of approval per se. It could simply be noted that any gates and bars would have to comply with law. You know, so if there is a reason why it's there, you know, we can work on that after. I know I've spoken with the planning director, Matt Sullivan. I think there's already been some headway on that to figure it out. Discontinuance wouldn't necessarily help the applicant in this instance. That's a whole different ball of wax. They're trying to that's building on a paper street, whereas now they're trying to build on a class 6 road, and this is the procedure to do it. They need the agreement plus discontinuance. It would go from the center to the abutter on either side. I don't have a map in front of me. I don't know the area that well, but I don't think they own both sides. So that wouldn't necessarily help, although it is a process. As to the name, which I know that was Alderman O'Brien and Alderman Dowd, the Board of Aldermen has authority to name any private or public street in the city. So it's a different resolution, but if you want to do so, you know, as long as it, well, not as long as, you can do it even if it doesn't go in with enhanced 911, but you know, to Alderman O'Brien's point, there can be confusing names. So if that's something that once y'all want to take up later, that's within your purview.
So
Is everybody in agreement of an O'Brien Dowd Highway, or is
I was just going to suggest that.
no, it should be Dowd O'Brien. But anyway, I have no problem with it staying gated at all, but it looks like we need to determine who owns the gate and who owns that fence, because we're going to be disrupting it and moving it as part of this project. If it belongs to the school department, not a problem. If it belongs to somebody else, I don't know who it would belong to, because it's either on the school's property or on Hayden Green's property. And we need to find that out. Harriman jumped off the thing, but we'll find that out tomorrow. If it belongs to the school department, that fence is coming down, and we'll replace it as necessary. And if it's so desired, we'll replace the gate. And I wasn't quite sure, Attorney Linda, what you meant, as long as the public can open it?
Yep, I know it sounds, but there it is in black and white in the statute. Yep, it says it can be subject to gates and bars as long as it can be unlocked. So then you wonder, what good is it? But
because there were very few people that had a key to that lock. It was a locked gate, and one of the people that had a key to it was Attorney Bolton. I don't know who else has it.
I thought you were gonna say a good pair of bolt cutters could have handled that problem too, but you know.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any reason for a fence. I mean, a gate. What the heck does the gate do? You know, so we need to find that out, because it appears like we may own the gate and the fence. And if we do, we will make determination based on whatever the Pennichuck would like to do and whatever the city would like to do relative to that Old Harris Road.
Certainly.
This is Mr. Goodhue speaking. As Mr. Ware indicated, our fence is on the left side of the road. That's what we're concerned about, and we'll be reconstructing that as a part of the project. What happens at the gate and on the right side of the road doesn't matter to us. Whatever you determine works for us.
Good, we got that down in formal. So if we own it, we're gonna do whatever we think is right for the school project.
There you go. I won't object to that. Any other questions? All right. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Laws,
Yes.
that is 4 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carried. Tabled in committee.
Nothing?
Yep, new business ordinance
None?
and remarks by the alderman. Oh, Mr. Goodhue.
At the proper juncture, I would like to take a few moments to just bring the committee up to speed on some things that we've talked about in the past. But you let me know when the right time to do that is, Alderman Laws.
This is a perfect time.
Great. So I just thought I would take an opportunity. One of our key things is we want to be as communicative as possible to the aldermen. And this is our venue to do that through the Special Water Committee, and we appreciate your time. I just wanted to kind of give you an update on a few things that have gone on. As you know, COVID-19 is a continuing situation locally in the state, in the country, and around the world. And for which the governor has issued a number of emergency orders, which we're all complying with at this moment relative to this meeting. It's impacting how the city operates, and it has had some impact on how the utility operates. But I will say, as a rule, it has not impaired our ability to do our jobs as the regulated water utility that serves both Nashua and 29 other communities within the state through our 3 regulated water utilities. We have pandemic response protocols as a part of our emergency action and emergency response plans. Last February, I can't believe it's a year ago now, we literally pulled those out, dusted them off, and said, this thing in China that's coming this way looks like it's coming this way, and we better be prepared. It's gone to Italy, it's gone elsewhere, and it's, it seems inevitable. So, our management team got together. We dusted that off. We looked at that and said, what are all the protocols that we must put in place relative to how the utility needs to do its job relative to its customers and its stakeholders during this pandemic? And so we did that in a rollout, in a kind of a phased in approach, and we phased that in. One of the first things that happened was in early March, again, nearly a year ago, we actually put ourselves in a remote working environment to the extent possible for our employees. We don't have some employees that can do that. I mean, we've got field workers. We still have to repair pipes in a trench. We can't do that remotely from somebody's home. We still have to go out and draw water samples. We still have to go out and service booster stations. We have to, make sure we run our water treatment plants and the like. So we did procedures there relative to job sharing, segregated working environment, making sure we had ample PPE, making sure that we did everything in compliance with state guidelines, CDC guidelines or recommendations. The good news is, again, we have been able to do our job fully during this entire pandemic. We've been able to meet the needs of providing safe drinking water to our customers. We've been able to keep our workforce healthy. We have not to date had an instance where we had a contamination event at our company. Now that's not to say that we haven't had some people impacted outside of our company through an exposure through a family member or whatever. But because of our protocols and how we've implemented those and reinforced those, none of those instances turned into anything that was catastrophic or anything that was a cross-contamination to other workers within our company. So that's been a very favorable thing. So I just wanted to make sure that the Special Water Committee was aware of that and to pass that on to the Board of Aldermen and to the public in this forum. The next thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that we've got a brand new headquarters building, if nobody told you. It's located in downtown Nashua. It's right there at 25 Walnut Street. We didn't want to change our address number, so we went from 25 Manchester Street in Merrimack to 25 Walnut Street in Nashua. That was just an important thing that we needed to maintain that 25. I jest a little bit, but the good news is again, that project went full steam ahead during COVID and literally was completed on time. We occupied without occupancy at the beginning of November. Again, this is the COVID world we live in. We literally had to break our workforce into 3 groups to vacate our property in Merrimack, such that we could have people in a segregated manner go in and pack up their offices. And then not be, at odds with our protective measures. And then to do the same thing on the other side, we're doing 3 separate groups to go in and unpack and set up their new offices. We have a skeleton crew that still works periodically within the building. And again, in compliance with our protocols. The vast majority of our workers are still working from home that can, and then our field workers are still working in the field. So again, we've occupied without occupying. One of the downsides to that is we've not been able to open it up to share the facility, even with our own board of directors. Mr. Leonard, who is on this call with me, has not seen the inside of that building in its completed state at this point in time. We're hopeful that sometime soon we're going to be able to do that with our board of directors and with members of the city to come in and take a look at the facility and what has been accomplished. It turned out wonderfully. We are set to be in there for the next up to 30 years. We've got a 15-year lease with 3 5-year extensions, and we are planning to be a very long-term tenant downtown Nashua relative to that facility. It was constructed for not only current needs, but anticipated future needs relative to the building, and in a financially viable and fiduciarily responsible way, in that I was able to negotiate a lease that was better terms in the long term than our current lease was, while still accomplishing the move downtown. So all in all, a very positive result. And I wanted to make the Special Water Committee aware of those two things. And then the last thing is we will be seeking to meet with you again sometime in the next month and a half. That'll be to talk with you about the results of operations for the full year, as well as the third quarter report, which is still being generated for you, as well as to talk about the activities that surround the proxy materials that we publish each year relative to the election and re-election of directors that will be executed upon at our annual shareholders meeting at the beginning of May. So those are the 3 basic topics that I wanted to cover with you. I don't know if our chairman has anything he would like to add at this time. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Larry. Yes, this is Jay Leonard, and I'm chairman of the board, and I don't really have anything to add. I think Larry has said it well. Just a reminder that our annual meeting is in May, and we will have our typical proxy and financial information for you before that, so that we can make sure we're in order for that meeting. But thank you very much for all of your help and cooperation on these matters, and in particular, the building permit tonight. That's a big step, and Don Ware deserves a lot of credit for that. It's a good project for us and for the city. Thank you.
Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank Pennichuck for, you always come prepared, you have the answers, you have the right people in the room, you have all the information we need. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you. So I just like to reiterate that every now and again. I mean, ever since the whole thing started, it's been a pleasure to work with everyone from Pennichuck. So thank you for that.
So we appreciate that, Alderman Wilshire. Again, Larry Goodhue here for the person who's transcribing. We appreciate the cooperation here. And again, one of the things I mentioned is it's our intent to over communicate, if anything, because we want to keep you informed. And so if at any point in time there's information that we're not bringing to the table, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to respond.
Thank you. Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, 3 really quick things. One, I've had lots of people comment on how nice your building is downtown. So you guys did a great job on that building. And looking forward, hopefully after a couple of vaccine shots, to come see the building. The other thing is, the one thing that I didn't know if you wanted to mention is, in this month and then more into March, your work on the Kessler Farm tank replacement is going to be in progress. And I know you have a meeting slated with the people that live up here to tell them what's going to be going on, which is great. I will be attending that meeting as well, since I live here. And the other thing is, I just want to tell Attorney Leonard that she has the patience of a saint working on another issue that I won't get into. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Dowd. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. I just want to explain, because being chairman of the infrastructure committee, we do from time to time have been approached from several different citizens and address changes and everything. And when I questioned the old Harris Road and street naming, as all of us know, we have the emergency 911, which exists up in Concord. And in the future, if you put a structure for what you want to build here, and that has some form of fire protection or a burglar alarm or something designated to it, then it's going to activate through the 911 system. And that's why I kind of want to get ahead of the E911 system to make sure that it does have the proper address. Although I'm not completely hung up on the O'Brien Dowd Highway, but I can concede to the Dowd O'Brien Highway equally, but we could work on that at a later date. But anyways, it is important, and I think it would keep it up because I'll say to the Pennichuck folks, when you came up, I'm looking at the old Harris Road. I'm familiar with the newer one, and I'm going, where the heck is that? Except I knew where you were building, and I knew of the plan. But if you told me where old Harris Road, but to our citizens who are listening, where is Olive Street? Where's Washington Street? Where is some of the other bygone streets that no longer exist? So it goes along with that. But thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Chairman Laws. First, I think the Clee Highway sounds much better than either one of those. I don't like hyphenated names, but anyways, getting back to my real point here was that I wanted to thank Pennichuck and Alderman Dowd and everybody else who's been doing so much work, and especially Mr. Ware. I know how hard you work on all these projects. It's good that everything is going so nice and so smoothly. This is such a big project, and it's important that we can all get together and work, especially for the school as well as for your own. And Mr. Ware, I'd like to thank you when you commented about the having to move the fence and everything. You really seem to have truly your thumb on every little detail. So, and I appreciate that. We get everything out on the table right away. So thank you very much.
Mr. Goodhue.
Based on the one point that Mr. Dowd brought up, would you like to have Mr. Bovair give you the highlights on what is going to be occurring for the Kessler Farm tank replacement project?
Absolutely. Please.
Oh, sure thing. This is John Boisvert again from Pennichuck. On or about, coming up to, on or about the end of February or so, we'll start seeing some activity up there. There's a few things we have to do in preparation for the actual removal, our contractor to come in there and remove. Their expected mobilization date would be March 15th at this point. That's when their contract will start. By then, the tank will be empty. We'd have all of our other operational provisions in place to run our system without that tank for the next, probably 10 months or so until the new tank goes online. So we'll start with the actual demolition of the old steel tank. Once that's down, site work, foundation work for the new tank will begin, and it will be a beehive of activity probably right through December 1st, probably close to Christmas before we wrap that tank up. It's a fairly large project on a very, very tight site. We've got some pretty sharp engineers working on the project that are very committed to making sure that we minimize whatever extraneous effects are around there. It's going to be a construction site. That's the thing, and we try to make everybody aware of that. But the big thing is, if there's and Alderman Dowd knows this, if there's a question or comment, or if there's something that we can do better or address, it always helps to know about it. And we are certainly going to make it known to the folks up in Kessler Farm that they'll have our numbers. They'll be able to get in contact with us, and we'll try to communicate as much and as often as we can. And it would actually, it could make for an interesting summer if everybody's home. It'll be a kind of an interesting project to watch.
And just one other thing for the people that may or may not be aware, we have already moved the emergency communication antennas off the top of the tank. There's a brand new 88-foot, if I'm not mistaken, tower up there with the antennas on it. Didn't get a lot of publicity until we had it all done. But there was never any drop in service. But the the emergency communication system is all intact, and now the tank can be fully demolished and replaced.
Thank you, gentlemen. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. I'll field it out there to anybody. I know there's got to be a lag time with this transfer of taking down the old tank and putting up the new one. And again, going back to some of my experience, I think you're familiar with the Coburn Ave and everything. Do you anticipate any problems like there was in the past with the, other than the NOP, normal operating pressure, but with the demand with fire that happened up in that off of Coburn Ave section during this particular lag time? And does the two hydrant system just still exist on Coburn Ave to supplement that pressure?
I was not with Pennichuck at that point in time, so I might have to defer to Don Ware on that situation. He's been around a little bit longer than I have, but what I will say in preparation of the Kessler Farm tank rebuild, the 24-inch water main that you see that we installed, along with several other improvements out by the airport, were designed to sustain our water delivery capabilities in that northwest part, the 101A. But we will be going through, as part of our preparation, is we will be doing some testing of our standard operating procedure, because, as you know, water demands are relatively low now, and we want to make sure the operations of our system will be different for the next few months than it will become May, June, July, and August. So we are going through some testing and kind of falling back on what was done back in 2003 when the tank was repainted. That one, the last time, kind of a similar exercise. Things have changed, so we are working through those things. But regarding the Coburn, I'm not 100% sure the history on that one. But if Don wanted to weigh in, I would sure let him on that one.
Well, I may be dating myself too. But when they built that tank up at Somerset, it did alleviate a lot of those problems and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, it's right in the time, and what I'm concerned about with people watering, as you say, it's around springtime. People want the nice green lawns, and just trying to get ahead of the curve of any of that.
Yeah, there's always going to be something that will creep up, but we're trying to do our best to anticipate those as best we can. And part of it is internally, we meet with our various departments, engineering, distribution, water supply, so that we know what we're all doing. We know what the goals are, the line of sight that we're trying to achieve. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
But if I can ask Mr. Ware, Mr. Chair, do you know what I'm talking about? The Coburn Ave, the double hydrants there, to supplement the pressure?
You're on mute, Mr. Ware.
Yes, I do, Chief. So a number of improvements have been made since the double hydrants were there. One of those was building the pumping station near the High Pine Apartments, and then separating the system out of where Coburn Ave or where the Coburn boosters are, or the Coburn Woods location is out. But right there, I think it's at the intersection of Shelburne and Coburn Ave, two hydrants still exist. There is a closed valve between them. In a worst case scenario, you could draft off of what is our northwest system and pump into the Coburn Ave area, which gets most of its water from the tank up on Butternut Hill. So again, improvements have been made, one in the delivery to the Butternut tank, two in the pressures along Broad Street, in that area because of the construction of the High Pine Station. But long answer to a short question, those 2 hydrants exist. And it may be something that at some point, with careful planning, you could set up and practice that procedure. I say careful planning because like anything, you're at the far reaches of the Coburn system. And if you pump into that hydrant in the Coburn system from the Broad or Northwest system, you will be reversing the flows, and we will all be addressing people's colored laundry without proper planning. But it does exist and is available. If you're looking for water and you're up in that area and you want to supplement it, that would be the place to go.
So John, I can guarantee one question you're gonna get when you have the meeting up here at Kessler Farms is are they gonna lose pressure up here since the tank's gone? I know the answer, but
Well, and again, that's the procedure that we're putting in place. I'm not going to say that there won't be variations because we're taking, what is water that is just, it's dumb, for lack of a better term, dumb water in a tank that's provided nice steady pressure. Now we've got to use combinations of pumps, valves, and other things to accomplish, the same thing. And so there is a little bit of, artistry to that, if I could use a term, but it's definitely achievable. It will just be one of those where it's going to take diligence on everybody's part.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'd just like to echo what my colleagues have said, and like I say every meeting, dealing with you gentlemen it's relieving, to say the least, how well prepared you are, informative, and I really, really appreciate it. You make it easy for the rest of us. That being said, there is no non-public session, so Alderman O'Brien, do you have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to adjourn by roll call.
The motion is to adjourn by roll call. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Dowd,
yes.
Alderman Wiltshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yea. Alderman Laws,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 4 yeas, 0 nays.
All right. Yeah, the meeting is adjourned at 8:08. And thanks again, everyone. This is very informative. I appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everybody.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.